Welcome to the Tax Answers Advisor, the show where clarity meets confidence in the world of taxes and finance. I'm your host, Marcelino Dodge, enrolled agent and certified tax representation consultant, here to guide professionals and business owners through the challenges that can quietly disrupt success, especially in the legal field. Today, we're diving into an issue that every attorney knows all too well, managing accurate, reliable financial records while handling complex emotional cases. The truth is, clean books don't just help your clients, they protect your practice, strengthen your cases, and save you valuable time. My guest today is Merry Stewart of QuickWin Bookkeeping, a bookkeeper who specializes in preparing books for attorneys. Today, we'll explore how precision bookkeeping supports stronger legal outcomes, reduces IRS complications, and helps attorneys stay focused on what they do best, advocating for their clients. If you're a law firm owner or family attorney who wants smoother financial operations and fewer tax headaches, this episode is designed for you. And also keep in mind that every number tells a story. The right help can turn yours into one of relief, confidence, and success. Don't wait for the IRS to write your next chapter. You can take control today by visiting taxreliefcall.com and schedule a confidential consultation, because peace of mind isn't just for your clients, it's for you too. So I'm going to say, hello, Mary. Welcome. Would you like to share a little
Hi.
bit about yourself and your background today?
Thank you, Marcelino. Yes, background. So I've been in accounting since high school. So that's quite some time, a little age on myself. Um, uh, no matter how much I tried to escape it, it was always creeping back in. So I finally decided, you know what, it's time to take my skills and my knowledge and put it to use for others. So I opened up my bookkeeping business it's towards the end of the pandemic back in 21. And I've been helping attorneys and a couple other business owners ever since.
Okay, well, that's a great background there. Your sounds a little bit similar to me. Tax just kind of grabbed on to me as I was going through stuff a little bit later than high school, but still, certain things you just kind of fall into that you figure out you're good at, so you want to go and share it. So that's why we're
Yep,
sitting here talking today. One is because we kind of intermingle together between tax and bookkeeping, because bookkeeping actually helps to get to the tax part. So anyway,
absolutely.
there. So
Absolutely.
let's delve into this a little bit more here. So, what inspired you to focus on bookkeeping for attorneys? Because that's a real, I call that real specialized. So, how does this approach differ from working with traditional clients?
With attorneys, I think what really drew me was you probably can feel this a little bit. So I know that when it comes to accountants, we sometimes have a bit of a stigma, if you will, for us. That that they're going to cheat us or they're going to whatever. And I found when I was working with attorneys, of course, they kind of have the same. They have not necessarily the exact same stigma, but people think that they're just out to get money, etc. And it's I think that's just what drew me to them, is that relatability to that. And then that's not always the case. They're there. All the ones that I've worked with, they're really focused on their clients. They want to help the people that they're doing business with, and that really is what drew me. Is I like helping people that want to help others, and so that
Mm-hmm.
was part of what drew me to them. And I just really have enjoyed working with them. So I just decided that's where I'm going to build my business on,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of help them make a difference for their clients, right? What's
Mm-hmm.
different? Obviously, the biggest difference is they have compliance issues that go beyond, of course, the IRS compliances, because they've got to go. They have to listen to what their bar says, which of course changes from state to state. Um, but they have to stay in compliance, or not only can they lose their business if they're not keeping up their books and everything correctly, but they can lose their license, which means even if they lose the business, they still lose everything. They lose beyond that. So it's it's very specific and very,
Mm-hmm.
not sure the word I'm looking for there, but basically it's just a bit more than your traditional
Mm-hmm.
business.
Hmm.
And I find it's a challenge, but it's one that's very necessary, and I want to help them be able to meet that goal.
Well, that's excellent, helping them to meet that goal because they got to have the behind the scenes stuff taken care of. Now,
Absolutely.
and I go in and I work with attorneys, but I work with them more on the family side because of tax issues that come up. And guess what? Attorneys don't like to deal with tax,
I'm
especially
sure.
if it's their clients' tax issues, not just their
Hmm.
own, but their clients' tax issues come into play too. And thus, having a specialist like myself to come in and help them to work out those tax issues dealing with the IRS or the State Department, especially in divorce cases. That's where it can really
Sure.
get pretty sticky there. So you take
Oh, I
care of
can
them on the
imagine.
back end, I take care
Hmm.
of them on the client end. And so that's what inspired me basically too, is that I like helping people get resolve their tax issues. And so, and it can and the tax issue can happen for the attorney too if their bookkeeping isn't right, which is why we need to talk, which
Absolutely.
is why we need to
Yep.
talk about the bookkeeping. If that's
Hmm.
so important there for them. So, as you work with various attorneys, not just like family law attorneys, but attorneys in general, what is the most common bookkeeping challenge that you see inside a firm?
Bookkeeping challenges. Gosh, there could be so many, but I'd say some of the biggest challenges I see is um, making sure that they're keeping their books obviously accurate, but um, categorizing properly. And then also just like the documentation, making sure they're remembering to always keep their documentation up to date. I prefer them to attach them as much as they can to either whether it's tied to a case or tied to the expense that they've spent out money
Hmm.
to kind of that's safeguarding them on the IRS side, but then
Hmm.
also safeguarding them on the Bar Association compliance side.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
See, yeah, see, that's an interesting level that you talk about there with the compliance they have on the bar side as well. So it's that we see that's why these are so important there because uh,
Mhm.
as an enrolled agent, I have a compliance side with the IRS. I got to file my own taxes, and guess what? The biggest reason why CPAs and enrolled agents get unenrolled with the IRS because they don't file their own taxes.
Wow.
So it's it's important for attorneys to have that all in place, and I'm really glad that you provide that service to them. Now, I was going to check. Now, here's something to think about here as they get organized and that figure their income and their expense. Do you? Uh, this is a side question I just thought of here about
Sure.
types of accounting. I mean, are they doing? What do you find? Are they doing cash accounting or doing accrual type of accounting? There is there one way or
That's
the
a
other that can
very
go.
good, that's really a good question. And believe it or not, I have some that do cash and I have some that do accrual. Accrual ones are ones going to be more if they're sending out an invoice and they're waiting for it to get paid, then they definitely need to be doing accrual. But I do have some clients that, like one of my earlier clients, I was surprised in his state that he does not have to deal with the IELTA as much because most of his clients and the fees that he charges are under a certain amount, which
Hmm.
their state is a part of their requirement. If it goes above a certain amount, then they have to have an IELTA, but if it's below a certain amount, they don't.
Hmm.
So his fees, most of what his transactions were on the spot. Like he would charge them, handle their case, and move on. But their cases were usually much faster to work with. So he
Hmm.
was actually able to do cash basis,
Hmm.
um, which probably isn't, I would say, probably isn't the typical, but certainly it could
Hmm.
have definitely happen. So, yeah.
Hmm. And this question comes up here because uh, attorneys work on retainer. Sometimes we'll take like a $5,000 retainer up
Yep.
front, and how they take that as income is determined by what method of accounting they're using. If they're using cash
True.
or accrual.
Right. No, you're right there. So when you're dealing with the IELTS and the trust accounting, obviously they don't need to be capturing that into their side. I mean, they still got to capture it that they've gotten a retainer, it's been deposited into the trust, but it doesn't get counted into theirs to their operating, or till we don't consider, we monitor it where it's in the trust, but then we also make sure that when it moves over, that it's being done appropriately at the appropriate time, like, they finished the case, or they've, depending on the case. When I think of personal injury attorneys, those particular attorneys, they're usually doing it at the end of the case when there's a settlement. So that's, again, that one can be a little bit more cash basis because it's happening at that moment. Do you see what I'm saying? And they're not having to wait on retainers, things like that, but the money still moves in and out through the IOLTA account. Whereas other attorneys, they might be getting a retainer up front, and then they sort of work on the case, and cases can take anywhere from a week to months or even years, right? And depending on their situation, they're going to have to probably work more on the accrual basis because, as while they might have, some get a big lump sum at the beginning, and it's put into the trust account, and then it moves over as they're completing work. So they have to kind of keep an eye on and show documentation each time they're completing the work, so that they can then be appropriately paid from that trust. And so as part of that, that's, to me, is part of the accrual, because you want to then create the invoices for the work that's being completed as it's done, and then that way you can then pay it from the trust appropriately. And usually you want to do that depending on the size, of course, of the firm too. But you want to make sure you're paying that on a routine basis.
So as they complete, like the hour, they do X amount of hours, and so, okay, we're going to
Right.
take this
Right.
against the retainer and then pull over
Right.
that money there. See,
Correct.
and that's where it can really get sticky from the IRS standpoint for
Absolutely.
attorneys, because when you fill out the forms to do it, and depending on what type of entity they are, because some are sole proprietorships, some are partnerships, it just
Right.
really depends on what they're doing and what kind of and how they're conducting business. But when you, as far as for tax purposes, you select an accounting method you're going to use, and they may use one
Yes.
type of accounting method when they're doing their books and so on. But when it comes to doing the tax return, it could be, I mean, they could be doing accrual within their business, but when they select it for taxes, they could be saying, we're a cash basis taxpayer,
Right.
which
Yes.
totally changes how the retainers are handled.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. I've seen that definitely. I've had a client that really runs on accrual as far as like on the books. He's really running more on the accrual side, but then we also have to prepare and look at on his cash basis to see how things are looking and comparing and making sure that's prepared, so that when it goes to tax time, they're ready for that as well.
So
Yes.
that's a really good differentiation that you make there with that, is that you're dealing, most businesses deal with just one type of accounting or method of accounting as they're conducting business. Okay, we're going to do cash basis for business. We're going to do
Yep.
cash base. They're usually like cash or accrual basis all the way across.
Right.
But obviously, when it comes to preparing books and then looking at the tax, you could be dealing with two different things when it comes to attorneys, just because of the way that their type of business is conducted.
Exactly.
So
Yep.
yes, so definitely it's a challenge there, and so which leads us to our next area about accurate, organized financial data. I mean, how does that help them in efficiency, especially since they could be dealing with, okay, we could be doing accrual here, cash here. So how does that help with them being efficient when we're having to balance out, in some cases, potentially two different accounting methods depending on what they're doing there?
What their situation is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it can certainly, if they're monitoring, they're able to see the effects that it's having on their cash flow. It can have effect on, it can help them identify even operational side. For example, that really ties to what you're saying. I have one client who they had kind of a rough month, and they did not bill a lot through that month. So their accrual side was really
Mm-hmm.
low on the revenue, but they were collecting and doing a really good job of collecting previous invoices that still needed to be paid. And
Mm-hmm.
so on the when I ran the cash basis report, the revenue was much higher because they were still bringing it in. So at least that was able to tell them that story that yeah, we didn't do great, bringing in and getting clients during this month, but I am also able to see that I was making sure that I was accruing, collecting on previous invoices that maybe weren't collected on. So it kind of tells stories.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's what I like to see about the books is people don't realize that it really tells a story. It tells a story of your business, and if you're really monitoring it and paying attention to it, it tells you all sorts of things about your business. If the operations are running smoothly, if they're
Mm-hmm.
not, it's going to show up. Um, so, and it can help if you're monitoring it in different ways and watching your KPIs and things like that, you're able to kind of not only see what's happening, but now you have clarity of, okay, this
Mm-hmm.
is an issue. I need to address it. And then, take the next steps to address it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I really love about being able to help the clients with.
Mm-hmm. And that's what's really good when you have a specialist like yourself that really is familiar with how uh, the attorney, retainers, collections, accounts
Hmm.
receivable, those kind of areas all work there because it's a lot. I mean, we think
It
about
is.
just wherever we're working in whatever area, having someone who goes in that area and can really focus in there like you're doing is just fabulous. And we think about it, we have deadlines. As a
Hmm.
tax professional, as deadline, as a bookkeeper, you have certain deadlines you need to make. Uh,
Hmm.
Sometimes the caseloads can be heavy. Attorneys are no different. So, how does a workflow that you work with in specializing in attorneys, how does that help them save time and actually have less stress as they're handling multiple cases?
Well, probably the biggest thing is obviously we're taking some of the burden off of them. We're keeping up with what's going on in the books, etc. And we're taking the information that we can get. All they've got to do is focus in on their clients. Maybe we get a little bit of data and send that over to us, and then we kind of take it from there. So they don't have to worry about the intricacies. And then all they got to do is at the end of the month when we send them the reports, just, again, it's about monitoring and knowing what's going on. So our workflow, we get the information from our clients, or preferably if they give us access to their practice management, then we're able to go in there and get the information we need off of that. So that gives them they can focus in on that area, and handle that, and then handle their caseload and not worry about, oh, did I remember this? Because we all know, I mean, do you remember what you ate a month ago? Like, no, you're not going to remember it. So if somebody else is able to take that burden off of you and they keep up with it for you, then if that question comes up, you go, hey, what did I have a month ago? Right? Kind of scenario.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so definitely helps the nice memory retention there to be able to help them recall there because there it is in writing. That's why records are so important for all of us, but
Yes,
especially helping them
absolutely.
and 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 well, in our case, as we work with different clients there, we have the same issues. We got to keep up with it, make notes. Oh yeah, I did that. So yeah, and so I'm sure you keep good
Hmm.
notes on whatever's going on with them as well, and then helping
Yep.
them to know, okay, well, this is where you are on this, so that now you can move forward. Because I don't know how many cases your clients that you're working with have, but I don't know, some of them could have hundreds of cases or something all
Oh,
going at the same
easily.
time.
Easily. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So you touched on this a little bit as far as how keeping the books helps with their compliance issues and licensing issues and so on. How does this also help when it comes to when we think about maintaining that protection from not only the compliance issues but even the tax surprises, and especially when they have the trust accounts and settlement funds and those kind of things? How's all of those? How do they keep surprises away, or how does good bookkeeping keep all those surprises away? Because many times, as you mentioned, they're dealing with multiple accounts too.
Right. I would say having a good bookkeeper definitely helps you in the compliance on both the IRS and the bar, because you've got someone that's maintaining the records, keeping up with what's supposed to be where. I mean, we've even helped clients go, "Hey, you forgot to pay yourself. Like, the money's still there. You completed this work. I can
Mm-hmm.
see in the reports everything that you've given me. You've completed this work. You forgot to pay yourself." But I think for the biggest thing is that having not only having the systems all in place, we help kind of keep those red flags away. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because if everything is being done correctly, we're getting everything. Bookkeepers are putting things where they need to be with, so that it makes it easier on the tax professional. They're able to see everything where it's supposed to be. Then they can file it. It makes the process smoother. And the more that that's happening on a routine basis, you know, you got less red flags going to the IRS going, "Hey, what's going on over with this business," right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you've got a lot of red flags and things are bouncing all over the place, or just doesn't look right on their side, then that's you're going to have a more chance of them coming in. But the other thing is also is, like I said, I like to make sure we've got good documentation. So if there is, for whatever reason, they decide to come in and they want to check it, they come in and audit. It's all right there, so they
Mm-hmm.
can easily see what's going on, and it's going to be a smoother, less stressful process than it
And
would be otherwise.
that's what we work to do. We don't want them to have stress. Let them go out and do what they're going to do, because they get enough stress from dealing with a variety of clients, from court
Absolutely.
appearances, all of that. At least in this
Yeah,
area, let's.
they don't need the bar coming in, and that I can't even imagine what the stress would be with the bar or the IRS. Like, that's
Mhm.
stressful. That's massive
Yeah.
stress and overwhelm. I mean, I can't
Hmm.
if you don't have somebody that you can rely on, that's backing you up with your taxes
Hmm.
or your books, or both, obviously both,
Hmm.
um, then yeah, you're going to be in a much more stressful place, because now you're going to run around and try and figure out, well, they're asking for something that was from 4 months ago. I don't know what I did with that document, or I know put it somewhere. You're not having to do all that. You've got people that's got your, where's the bank statements, or
Hmm.
whatever it is. I mean, there's such a variety of things that are involved in it, that we're going to help you make sure it's where you need it to be.
Hmm. Yeah. And so we keep touching on going back to some various items here, but it's just so important as you're dealing with any client. There's compliance issues, there's, of course, profit and loss issues there. Uh,
Mhm.
I'm just kind of curious here. As you work with them, do you tend to find that attorneys, I mean, are they? I mentioned earlier they work in a variety of ways. Some are sole proprietorships, probably single member LLCs, I'm guessing,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
others kind of work as partnerships.
Mhm.
As far as the ones you work with, do you notice any kind of specific trend as what type of entity they're working as, or how they're working as a business?
Oh, I see all types. I've had partners, I've had incorporated, and I've
Mhm.
had sole proprietors. So yeah, I've seen the gambit of that one. Yeah.
Okay, they're all over the place then, basically
Yep.
there. So okay, depending
Yeah.
whatever their
Depends on
particular
their
needs are.
size. If they've just started out, usually if they've just started out, they're usually a sole proprietor. They might be a partnership that's just starting out with an LLC partnership, or a P. For them, it's a PLLC. Um,
Mm.
and then depending on how much they grow or how fast they grow, some want to grow, some don't want to grow. Some have come out of other practices and they're like, no, I just want to stay, small. And then others, they're ready to keep. I've seen some that just kicked in gear and
Mm.
had plenty of other attorneys under them, that they joined their practice. I saw one go from a partnership of two with one single attorney, and within about 2 years they had like 10 attorneys.
Mm.
I mean, they exploded really fast. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of, and then you just grow. You know how it goes when
Mhm.
as they're growing, they can grow what the entity type is as well.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And then that's important there as you go through because you're doing sitting there working as a bookkeeper and then making your recommendations, your profession, giving your professional experience and guidance to them. But then you also, and I'm sure you work with tax professionals because bookkeepers and tax
Hmm.
professionals have to collaborate together because
Absolutely.
for tax purposes, keeping in compliance. Because as we see, to be able to serve them effectively, they need both services, and it doesn't have to necessarily be one person. It can be a collaboration,
Hmm.
a person that deep dives into the bookkeeping, like you doing, and then a person like myself who's more on the tax side
Hmm.
there. And so, how do you see that really benefits these attorneys when there is a strong collaboration like that?
Oh goodness. Well, definitely when there's a strong collaboration. Just to use an example, or sort of an example, if I come across something, you just never know what you come. There's so many areas and so many things that you can come across that there's stuff. I'm sure even there's stuff that you come across that you're like, wow, okay, I've never seen this before. Like it happens to us, right? Um,
Hmm.
so if there's something that's new to me that I'm not familiar with, if I have someone I can collaborate with and reach out to and
Hmm.
go, okay, how does this need to be handled? Like, what does this going to affect on their taxes? Is this, you
Hmm.
know, what how does the IRS treat this scenario,
Hmm.
so that I know then on the books how to treat it on the books.
Hmm.
Um, having that communication and that connection is huge to me.
Hmm.
And then of course, then, if I'm doing what I need to, I can make the process smoother on your side, which actually is also benefiting the client because
Hmm.
then this process for them for tax time is also smooth. And then if there are things that is seen as, okay, well, this is a little off or
Hmm.
whatever, and there's adjustments, then it's easier to make sure that, again, the books are appropriate because
Hmm.
then I'm giving him the information from the tax professional is, hey, you know what, we saw that. Sometimes I'll use another example. I have a client he does have a partnership, but he also has, his partnership has a separate business. So he's
Mm.
got two businesses.
Mm.
And sometimes one business will borrow funds from the other
Oh
business. I'm
my.
sure you've seen that. Um, and so when I don't see the other business,
Hmm.
that's the interesting thing. So I don't have the books on both businesses. I have just the one. And so the tax professional at the end of the year sees all of that and is able to see what needs to be done. And if
Hmm.
she saw something that was moved or needed to be moved, and she says, hey, this business needs to pay this business back or
Hmm.
whatever, and that transaction needs to happen, she's able to reach out to us and go, okay, there's these other pieces that you didn't know about. Here's what we need to fix on the books,
Hmm.
and we need to make sure this funds move. So those collaborations help us, and then it helps them make sure things are happening that needs to, because they might not know what needs to happen on that side.
Hmm. Yes. And one thing interesting you bring up one business loaning money to another business there. Um,
Hmm.
Something I always ask about in those particular situations is there some type of like promissory note between businesses
Agreements,
with
yes.
a payment schedule, with an interest rate, those
Hmm.
kind of deals? Because
Yep.
I would say just for their regular compliance for their bar license, it would be important, but it's essential uh, for the IRS. You
Hmm.
just can't, you're not supposed to be doing money because anything you're dealing with it, you have to have some type of written agreement there that covers that. So I
Right.
hope, I'm sure
Because
you're
even
probably
though
checking
even
into
though
that.
it, to you it's just you borrowing from you,
Hmm.
it's not, because you have to remember that it's two different entities and they're separate from you personally,
Hmm.
unless you're sole proprietor. But
Yeah. Now
that goes into a different thing.
another challenge I can see, and this kind of gets into my next area about red flags there. I don't know if this has been an issue for you, but I have seen this happen occasionally with some partnerships in particular and LLCs and this is a big red flag that can happen, is if you have partners in the business
Hmm.
acting or being paid as W-2 employees. That's
I
a
only
that's an
Yeah,
issue
when
I've
they're
seen
just a
sometimes.
partnership, typically not. The only
Hmm.
time I've ever seen a partnership, um, the partners being paid on salary is when they change their entity type
Hmm.
to an actual S corp. and then they're appropriately being paid through payroll.
Yeah, exactly there.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that would be, absolutely be a red flag if they were just on payroll and they're only just set up as the partnership straight up. Because
Yeah. 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 And so that's a caution. That's something I've encountered with partnerships or multi-member LLCs taxed as partnerships. They didn't make the S corp election. So yeah, that's one big red flag, which can draw an audit pretty quick if if they're playing with it too much. And sadly, I've lost clients over those kind of issues because I'm like, no, I'm not doing this. You can't do this. This is not this was settled a long time ago, and then they say, well, I want it. I'm like, okay, goodbye, because I'm not doing it. So
Right.
now that's one big red flag that comes up. Have you encountered other red flags that could signal maybe perhaps deep financial or other operational inefficiencies?
Oh goodness. Some of the bigger red flags, this one's going to sound silly, but one red flag I had with one client when I first started with them was that we found that the way they were taking their credit cards, they were simply categorizing it as a credit card charge instead of
Oh.
categorizing the actual expenses of each
Mm.
expense hitting the credit card. They were just putting it as credit card. It's like, no, you can't just do that. That's, you gotta know what your actual expenses are. It's not really going to help you.
Mm-hmm.
So that was probably one. The other would be definitely if I'm seeing the distributions are really high and they're constantly digging into the cash
Mm-hmm.
and it's hurting the cash side. That's a huge red flag. Um,
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Expenses that don't belong actually to the business. That's probably a bigger one. I don't see that one, thankfully, too often.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that's usually if I see that, I kind of try and correct that.
Mm-hmm.
If I ever had a client that was repeatedly doing that and not changing that kind of behavior, I would probably have to let them go
Mm-hmm.
because that's going to be a huge red flag. And if you're constantly seeing that, um, I feel like that would be not only a red flag for the potential bar, but also for definitely for the IRS. Um,
Mm-hmm.
'Cause
Yeah, treat your separate entity.
commingling is a
Yes.
horrible, horrible habit that you should never get into. Never even start.
Yeah. Treat your business as a business, not as your personal bank account, which
Exactly.
sadly some business people do in general. But
Yeah.
for attorneys in particular, that's a huge risk. That
Yes, it is. And the one another one that's coming to mind is still ties directly to that, and that is the um, don't just look at if you're trying to figure out what your distribution should be for the month or the quarter or whatever,
Mhm.
don't use the bank balance. I've seen that happen. It's like, oh, that's not the way to do it.
Yes, definitely there. And sometimes those things are, I don't know, because I do know some, when it comes to certain partnerships, that they have certain items written into the partnership agreement as
Hmm.
to what type of payment that they get. And it's it's very wise to follow whatever's according to the partnership agreement that they
Absolutely.
have. And then and those guarantee payments for services, they need to uh, make sure those are spelled out and follow that. And then if they need to make a change, then change the agreement because
Mm,
uh,
exactly.
that's what the IRS that's what the IRS will go back and look at first. Okay, can we have a copy of this agreement, of your
Hmm.
operating agreement, basically, or your partnership agreement, or whatever you have? That way,
Right.
that ties it solidly together for them. So that's
Hmm.
and then then you get another bank of attorneys involved for that because attorneys, you would think, I don't know, I'm thinking attorneys ought to be able to make a partnership agreement, but maybe they need a neutral third party to make it for them. I don't know, but
You'd be surprised. No, they do. I've actually even met someone that specifically focuses on helping them create their charter,
hmm.
um, to help them be more successful because a lot of them just jump in, just like everybody else.
Oh, really?
Sometimes you think, oh, you know what, we're going to work really well together, and they jump in and yeah, they know to make agreements and they do it to a certain point, but sometimes they
Hmm.
don't think about all the little nuances. So yeah. I think having a third party that's neutral, that can help you kind of think of those things, would be very beneficial to them.
Okay. So yes, as you work to keep the books clean, then how do you see that connecting with the long-term business health for them?
I'm sorry, repeat that question
Oh,
one more time.
I says as we see we talked about attorneys sometimes fail to uh, look at their own financial concerns as they focus on clients. And so how do we see a connection in between clean books and the long-term business health?
Okay, gotcha. That's definitely where a lot of, I think I've kind of probably touched on it already, but essentially, like, if your books are kept accurate and up to date, then you're going to have a better idea, and you're monitoring your reports, so that you can see what's happening with the business. Then you're going to put yourself in a better position, because then you can make strategic, more aligned decisions based off them, rather than constantly feeling overwhelmed with, like, I don't know which direction I need to go, and just making gut decisions. Just, I think this is what's accurate. Like I was saying, don't go look at your bank account and just assume that that's I should be good to do this, because that's what can get you into trouble super fast. The other thing is that it can help you get in a better position, that, we all run into hard times, right? I mean, businesses do. Uh, Economically, we do. Look at what happened with the pandemic, things like that. Um, so being prepared for those and having a plan in place is huge, and knowing what your finances and how those things are affecting your finances is a huge part of that. And so having a cash cash reserve, sorry, my tongue's getting tied today, um, is a huge part of that as well. So um, yeah, I those are kind of, to me, some of the key points that can help them, not only currently but moving the business forward.
Okay, yes, as far as the health there. So, and you brought some of these out very nicely there and throughout our discussion today. But just to emphasize some tools or best practices that you would recommend attorneys need to do to keep bookkeeping organized and I guess audit ready all year. I mean, does that mean the bar can come in and look at their books? I mean, is that a thing?
Yeah, yes, it is.
Oh,
The
okay.
bar can do an audit. The bar can come in and do an audit as well. Um, so best practices, obviously, as I said, documentation, and attaching a documentation to, whether it's to your expenses, to your funds coming in, funds going out, your client work, things like that. Whether you're putting it into your practice management or your accounting system, or both, which would obviously be even better, because then if they can just go into, in particular the IRS, if they can go into your bookkeeping accounting system and see what's there, and they're wanting to verify a transaction, well, why did this get paid? They see an attachment and notes. By the way, love notes. Anytime you can add notes, those are even better, because then you're explaining why you spent whatever. And they don't have to be long. They don't, just brief things. But documentation in particular, to me, receipts. You go and stop, you're traveling for a conference and you stop and you get gas. Save that receipt, upload it. Some of the quick tools, if you happen to be using QuickBooks, QuickBooks has an app. You can snap a picture and upload it, be done with it. Um, or you can send it over to your bookkeeper. We do that all the time. We even have it where clients can easily just simply hit a button with an email and they're done. I have one client that they have a scanner set up with a button that literally all they have to do is put it into the scanner, hit the button, and it immediately sends it to us. So there's lots of different little tools out there that can kind of make this more streamlined, more efficient, and faster. And then we've got what we need. We can attach it where it needs to be, so that when they come in, it's there.
Excellent, excellent there. Um, there are many excellent tools, and
There's
some
so many out there.
there's so
Like,
many
there's
out
too
there.
too many to, like, name them all, but
Yeah. Have you? Here's a side thought there. Have you worked with some, or do they do any of the attorneys that you work with, or have you recommended that they use like accountable plans for perhaps reimbursements? Have you done any of the work?
Accountable plans. Oh,
Well, we're talking about like for certain types of reimbursements for like business related expenses.
gotcha.
Yeah, because sometimes businesses will set those up to reimburse for perhaps mileage or little things that they do
Gotcha.
along the
Yeah, yeah,
way.
yeah. So like if they've got more than one
Hmm.
attorney or whatever and they're traveling, yeah, I usually definitely I would suggest a system and a process that they need to
Hmm.
have in place to make sure that they're I see that vary,
Hmm.
but depending on, if you've got a really small firm, just make sure you've got something that's where they are documenting in
Hmm.
some way why
Yeah.
they're needing to be reimbursed.
Hmm.
Or if you're doing it in advance, make sure you're, documenting that as well, especially.
Hmm.
And then we want to make sure that you're getting reimbursed if you're doing it in advancement.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm. Hmm.
so yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
There's lots of different systems for that as
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
as well as mileage. I mean, just capturing if you're doing it by
Hmm.
mileage or um,
Hmm.
direct payment of the expense like gas or whatever.
Hmm. Yeah. Some of those things as well. There.
Yeah,
One of the
because then you
common.
got per diems and things like that,
Yeah.
and then there's lots of different cards that
Hmm.
can be used. Again, depending on the size of the firm and how
Hmm.
you're wanting to do it, whether you're doing, I've got some that, for example, American Express, you can get multiple cards for the specific people.
Hmm.
I would never recommend it for all your employees.
Hmm.
I would definitely never recommend that because then
Hmm.
it's harder to control
Hmm.
because you got multiple people and trying to keep up with them.
Hmm.
Um, but you don't want just anybody just going and spending the funds. That's how I see it.
Hmm.
But there's also programs out there that have cards that you can say, like if you've got people that travel routinely for you or something, you can put funds specifically on that card that is
Hmm.
designated for that, and then you're able to track it through that system specifically as to what they're spending it on.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Definitely keeping good track of it. That's just the whole story of today, keeping good track of
Yep,
it there
yep,
and making sure you document. See, and it's not just for bookkeeping purposes because we're talking
absolutely.
tax purposes as well. Uh, we want to make sure that they don't end up having to get a hold of someone like me to maybe resolve their own personal tax issue because maybe they didn't file, which I'm sure there's some that don't.
It
Um,
happens.
it happens, or they haven't paid, or whatever the case may be. But good bookkeeping will help you to avoid all those issues and be proactive, which is what our goal is: being proactive in all of
Hmm.
these areas there. So then, just we've covered some of this we've covered so much, and it's been so informative here. But as we look again, we talked about how a knowledgeable bookkeeper and a tax professional, how they bring peace of mind and professional confidence to the attorneys, though. So again, just to see and just to help those listening here to see why is that partnership going to be so important for them as they look to grow their firm there. Let's just really kind of emphasize that point because it's just so vital. You do need both.
Yeah, you definitely do. Having both really is going to help empower you um, to be able to, like I said, knowing what your numbers are and what they mean, what they tell you, and being able to plan appropriately so that you can reduce your tax bill, right? That's
Hmm.
huge. Like, no, who wants to pay the taxes, right?
Hmm.
Um, you want to reduce that as much as possible. So taking the time to work with them and get that right information that you need and then documenting it, etc., is huge. And then being able to see and monitor it so that you can make good decisions. That's the empowerment that you get. And then it
Hmm.
actually helps you be more confident. Like you're not trying to guess what you
Hmm.
need to do with your business or the next step or whatever needs to happen or whatever the scenario is, but if you have a clarity on what those things are, you have a clarity on, okay, this is what I can expect. This is going to help me reduce my tax bill if I take these steps or whatever. It's going to give you the clarity that you're needing that clarity gives you the confidence to make those decisions or take those next steps that you might need to take. And maybe you're more hesitant because you're like, gosh, I'm not sure what I need to do. Am I taking the right step? You know what I mean?
Definitely there. And clarity we see is so important in any
Oh, very
business.
much.
And I can see where it can even be doubly so for attorneys because of the many challenges, issues, laws, cases, judges, other attorneys they're maybe arguing cases against for their clients there. So there's a lot going on, a lot of moving parts that they have, and hey, keeping that
Absolutely.
clarity on the back end will definitely help them. That way they can have the tax issues resolved and not even have them in some cases. And then, of course, in other cases, having an option to be able to know if their client has a tax issue that needs to get resolved before the marriage is resolved or after the marriage is resolved, being able to have a professional available to resolve those issues. Because
Mm-hmm.
when you have a client that finds out their spouse hid $100,000 or something, and there's a $50,000 tax bill hiding there that they happen to be jointly responsible for because of the tax return filing, that's a
Mm-hmm.
big mess too. And so you need to be able to focus on that and
Sure.
find the right professional to help you to deal with that. Because once again, attorneys don't want to deal with taxes, whether it's their
Mm-mm.
own or for their clients. So
Right.
yeah, so you got to have the tax professional in both cases there, ready to go for you. So uh,
Absolutely.
we've had a beautiful discussion here today, Mary. So if someone listening to this wants to reach out to you, how can they do so?
Reaching out to us. Fastest way is to go to our website, which is quickwinbookkeeping.com, or they can just email us at info@quickwinbookkeeping.com, and that's quick, as in quick and fast. Win, we want to make working with us a quick win all by
Hey,
itself.
that
Yep,
that makes it easy. And it can be quick win for the attorneys, and that's your specialty is working with the
absolutely.
attorneys. And so, hey, working with you can help them have a quick win on their cases, perhaps. I like that idea.
There you go.
There you go. So again, I thank you, Mary. It's been a very insightful discussion. We'll invite all to if you have questions, comments, want to know how Mary does it. Now, you do service across the country. I'm guessing, Mary, right? You
Yes,
you you have
yes,
a
we do.
you're virtual, correct?
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So no matter where you are, if you've really discussed this and you want to reach out to quickwinbookkeeping.com, do it. And Mary will have that discussion with you on it there. So thank you, Mary. It's been
Absolutely.
been wonderful there. It's been a very insightful discussion today. And keep this reminder in mind as an attorney that strong cases start with strong books.
Yeah,
When
they
your
do.
financial systems are clear and compliant, you can practice with confidence, knowing your numbers support your advocacy. If you're an attorney or law firm ready to streamline finances, resolve tax issues, or prevent IRS problems before they start, don't wait. Or if your clients have these issues, don't wait. Let's make your firm's financial foundation and your client's financial foundation as solid as possible in all the cases that you build. You can schedule a confidential consultation at taxreliefcall.com. And remember, I'm Marcelino Dodge, the Tax Answers Advisor. Thank you for listening. And remember, behind every successful law practice is clarity, confidence, and trusted financial guidance.